bum.
Crack on.
This one's there,
Sorry.
Chair, fellow speakers and guests, this is a tale of triumph, not through accounts of military might or strategy, but football stories of passion, prejudice, persistence and justice. Stories about the battles that happen more silently in our homes and in our hearts, and ways of finding common ground, understanding and ultimately equality. In Mons, Belgium, where it is said the fight between the Germans and the British forces started and ended in World War I, a different battle raged in the 1980s. It was in our house, over the TV. My mother, my sister and myself wanted to watch French films. We couldn't see the point of watching men running back and forth across a stretch of grass no bigger than a football field, in the hope a player would make contact with the ball at the right angle for it to reach a dead end in a net. The score was 3-1. And we usually lost. What baffled me more than the game itself, or why we lost despite being in the majority, was that when my grandmother came to visit, she wanted to watch the football. So this time we lost 3-2. In 1991, my weekly school trip to the swimming pool was cancelled due to mechanical problems with the van. My only option to get some exercise was to join, you've guessed it, the football team. I got to play in a mixed match on a pitch that had an old oak tree within its boundary. The tree turned into my ally. It enabled me to sneak up on my opponent, get my feet on the ball, run towards the goal, but I couldn't score. It turns out you do have to be in somebody else's football boots to understand them. And so I appreciated the skill needed for the game a little more, and my grandmother's interest. As I said, in 1914, around the fields of Mons and in France, World War I was playing out. Yet, on the 25th of December, teams were established for a football match on the frozen mud of no man's land. This would become known as the Christmas truce. The score on the day was said to be Germans 3, British forces 2. But the results in the battlefields were yet to be decided. The Germans may have won the match, but they lost the war. And we know the outcome was disastrous for all. At the same time, across the channel, women stepped into men's shoes in the factories that powered the war effort. These munitionettes, as they were called, worked grueling, dangerous shifts to boost morale, keep them fit, to improve productivity, as well as raise funds for wartime charities. Factories sponsored football teams. On the 7th of August 1917, the Sporting Man newspaper ironically reported, I quote, "Yesterday at the University Ground Durham, thousands of people, including the men, witnessed a match in which the team consisted of female munition workers from Swindon and Hartlepool. The match was an exciting affair and many of the women showed remarkable ability. The score, 3-2. Mr. J.W. Crawford was referee, and the proceeds of the match, £50, around 4,500 today, were in aid of the Prisoner of War Fund. This match was likely to be for the Munitionette Cup, and one of the 2 goals for Hartlepool was scored by my grandmother. That really explained her passion for the game. These matches were no amateur pastime. On Boxing Day 1920, 53,000 people packed into Goodison Park. 14,000 more were locked outside. These matches raised enormous funds for the war wounded and their families. Their success was both popular and patriotic, the sport a source of national pride. The scores in any of these matches doesn't really matter, because the real battle would be fought after the end of the war and go on for 50 years and more. My grandmother, like so many others, would not be able to improve her skills, because on the 5th of December 1921, the Football Association delivered a devastating blow. The FA Council declared that the game is quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged. They banned women's football from being played on any FA-affiliated grounds. Why? Because the Football Association was a male-dominated institution that could not stand the success of a sport it did not govern. Women's teams were drawing crowds that in some cases surpassed that of the men's game. This was a direct threat to the financial and cultural dominance of men's football. The ban was an act of jealousy and control. For the next 50 years, women's football was forced underground. Teams continued to play, but on public parks and rugby pitches. Without official recognition, they were starved of media attention, proper facilities and funding. A generation of female talent was denied the opportunity to play the game, or like me, made to believe it was not for us. However, women who loved the sport refused to accept their fate. They formed their own leagues and in 1969 established the Women's Football Association, the WFA, to govern the game independently. The ban from the FA was finally lifted in 1971. This was a crucial first step, but that's all it was, a step. They offered no financial support, no infrastructure, and no apology. The WFA ran the sport for the next 20 years, slowly building it back from the ground up. It would take many years of hard work, grassroots effort for the first official European Championship to be held in 1984, the year my grandmother died. An inaugural World Cup took place in 1991, the year I played. In 1993, the year I started my business, the FA finally took control of the women's game. At the 2012 Olympic final in Wembley Stadium, a record-breaking crowd of 83,000 was in attendance. These stories are a powerful reminder of what happens when passion is met with prejudice. and how even the most formidable obstacles can be overcome with perseverance. Just as the Christmas truce was not the end of the war. Women now playing football is not the end of the fight for women's rights. On the battlefields, the hearts of the soldiers bled for the freedom of their country. At home still today, on and off the pitch, women's hearts bleed for recognition, justice and equality.